Excellent. Let's expand key point 1 into a 750-word speech segment in the style of Sarah Jakes Roberts, warm, passionate, conversational, infused with spiritual insight and emotional storytelling, but keeping the philosophical essence from Alan Watts' style without mentioning either by name. The segment should feel as though it naturally belongs in the speech you're crafting. Here's your expanded segment. You know, sometimes I think the hardest part about facing negative feelings is how much they convince us that they define who we are. It's like we wake up one morning and the sky of our soul feels gray, heavy with clouds, and we start believing that maybe we've become the storm. That maybe we are anxiety, that maybe we are sadness, that maybe we are fear, but listen to me, you are not the storm. You are not the clouds, you are the sky, and I know that sounds poetic, but it's more than poetry, it's survival. Because if you can learn to watch those feelings instead of getting tangled up in them, you'll start to see that they're not permanent. They're not your identity, they're just visitors passing through the vast space of your being. I think about how we sit and watch the weather change outside our windows. When rain falls, we don't run into the streets screaming, "It's raining, it'll never be sunny again." No, we know the rain will pass. We know the clouds will drift away, and yet inside ourselves we panic when the rain starts falling in our spirit. We forget that what's happening inside us is just as natural as the weather outside, and we forget that we have the power to observe it instead of letting it drag us under. You see, there's a difference between feeling an emotion and becoming that emotion. When you're sad, it's okay to feel sad. When you're angry, it's okay to feel angry. The problem comes when we start believing that sadness is who we are. That anger is our name. That depression is our destiny. And I came to tell you today that your name is not anxiety. Your name is not hopeless. Your name is not broken. Your name is beloved. Your name is resilient. Your name is worthy. Those clouds might be hanging low right now, but that doesn't mean the sun has disappeared. It's just hidden for a little while. Sometimes we get so busy trying to shove negative feelings away that we give them more power. We say things like, "I shouldn't feel this way," or "I should be over this by now." And we start wrestling ourselves as though our emotions are enemies we have to defeat. But what if we tried something different? What if instead of wrestling with those clouds, we just watched them? What if we learned to say, "I see you, sadness. I feel you, anxiety. You're here right now, but I know you're not here to stay." Because here's what I've learned. Feelings are messengers, not masters. They come to show us something, teach us something, reveal what needs healing in us. If you can watch them like clouds drifting across your sky, you'll find they lose their grip on you. You'll realize that even when the storm rages, there's still a vast, peaceful sky beyond it all. And I'm not saying this because it sounds good. I'm saying this because I've lived it. I've sat in rooms where my own mind tried to convince me that the pain would never end. I've felt the weight pressing on my chest, making it hard to breathe, making it feel like I'd never smile again. But even in the middle of those moments, there was a tiny part of me, just a flicker, that whispered, "This is passing. This is not who you are." And I want that whisper to become a roar inside of you today. The roar that reminds you that feelings are fleeting. The roar that reminds you that you've survived every storm so far. The roar that declares that your spirit is bigger than anything trying to drown it. So the next time negative feelings rise up like dark clouds, take a breath. Remind yourself that you are not the weather, you're the sky that holds it all. And don't judge yourself for what you feel. You're human, you're allowed to have storms, but know this, no matter how fierce the winds blow, you're still standing. and the sky inside you is still infinite, still strong, still waiting for the sun to shine again, because it will. And if you remember nothing else I've said today, remember this: the clouds will pass, the sky will clear. And you beautiful, resilient, extraordinary, you will still be here, shining brighter than ever. Of course, here's an expansion of key point 2, unmask the illusion of control. Into a 750 word segment flowing naturally in the speeches style, written as though Sarah Jakes Roberts were delivering it. Warm, powerful, personal, spiritual, but conversational, with no heading and ending on a strong closing line for impact. You know, sometimes I think the weight we carry isn't just from what's happening to us. It's from how tightly we're trying to hold it all together. We clutch at life with both hands, afraid that if we let go for even a second, everything will come crashing down. We've been taught that control is strength, that if we plan hard enough, work hard enough, worry hard enough, we can make life bend to our will. We think we can protect ourselves from disappointment, from heartbreak, from chaos, as long as we keep every detail in check. But baby, can I tell you something real? Control is an illusion. I know that's a hard truth to swallow. I know because I've had to swallow it myself, more times than I'd like to admit. I remember seasons where I thought if I just stayed busy enough, prayed enough, planned enough, I could avoid the pain. I thought if I kept every plate spinning, nothing would fall and break. I'd try to micromanage my feelings, micromanage my relationships, micromanage my future. And in the process, I was exhausting my soul, because here's what I learned the hard way: the more you try to control everything, the more it controls you. You become a prisoner to the what-ifs. What if I lose my job? What if they leave me? What if I fail? What if I'm not enough? And every what-if builds a wall between you and the freedom God designed for you to walk in. Let me ask you this: what if the freedom you're craving isn't on the other side of tighter control, but on the other side of letting go? See, we're so afraid to surrender because we think it means giving up. We think it means we're weak. But surrender doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop carrying what was never yours to hold in the first place. You're not responsible for how every story turns out. You're not responsible for how other people feel about you. You're not responsible for fixing everything that goes wrong in this world. You are responsible for showing up with your whole heart, doing the best you can, and then letting life unfold. And I know it's scary because letting go feels like losing control, but the truth is, you were never in control to begin with. Look back over your life. How many moments surprised you? How many times did a door close only for a better one to open? How many times did you think you'd break, only to discover strength you didn't know you had? See, some of the best things that ever happened to you, you didn't plan. You didn't schedule them, you couldn't have predicted them if you tried. They came because life and God have a way of working things together for good, even when you can't see it. And that's why I'm begging you from the deepest part of my heart to loosen your grip. Because while you're busy trying to script every detail, you're missing the miracle that's happening right now. While you're clinging to your plans, you're missing the joy of this very moment. There's beauty in the mystery. There's peace in knowing you don't have to have it all figured out. There's relief in admitting, I don't know how this will turn out, but I trust that I'll be okay. And maybe that's the bravest thing you'll ever do. Maybe the bravest thing is to look at your life, the mess, the uncertainty, the unanswered questions, and say, I release this. I'm still going to show up. I'm still going to work hard. I'm still going to love deeply, but I release what I can't control, because here's what happens when you let go. Your hands open up to receive blessings you never saw coming. Your mind quiets enough to hear the whisper of your own wisdom. Your heart softens enough to feel joy, even in the middle of chaos. And your spirit finally breathes, free from the weight of trying to be the author of every outcome. So, I want you to try something this week when you feel yourself tightening up, trying to force something to happen, trying to protect yourself from every possible pain. Pause. Take a deep breath and say out loud, I let go. Because the truth is, you were not created to carry the whole world on your shoulders. You were created to live, to love, to grow, and to trust that the sky will not fall simply because you loosen your grip. Letting go doesn't mean you're giving up. It means you're giving over. It means you're trusting that there's a wisdom bigger than yours, guiding your path, holding you even when everything feels uncertain. So open your hands, my friend, let go of the illusion of control, and watch how life unfolds in ways more beautiful than you could have ever planned. Of course, here's an expansion of key point 3. Dance with life, don't wrestle it. Into about 750 words, continuing in the style of Sarah Jakes Roberts, warm, vibrant, spiritual, honest, and conversational, seamlessly fitting into the speech, with no headings and closing on a strong final line for impact. Sometimes I think the reason we're so tired all the time isn't just because of how much we're doing, it's because of how much we're fighting. We wake up swinging, wrestling our emotions, wrestling our circumstances, wrestling our own hearts into submission like we're in some kind of cage match with life. But life was never meant to be a fight. Life was meant to be a dance. I know some of you are thinking, but you don't know what I've been through. And you're right, I don't know every detail of your story, but I do know that every single one of us has had moments that felt like too much to carry. Moments when our dreams shattered like glass on the floor. Moments when we thought the hurt would swallow us whole. And when those moments come, it feels natural to fight, to clench our fists, to brace ourselves against the pain, to try to push it away. But the more we fight, the tighter the knot becomes in our chest, the heavier the burden grows on our shoulders. And the further we drift from the freedom and peace we're searching for. Because here's what I've learned. Sometimes you can't fight your way into peace. You have to surrender your way into it. You have to learn how to dance with life, even when the song changes without warning. I remember a season when everything I thought I'd built started to fall apart. Plans I'd poured my whole self into crumbled in my hands. People I thought would stay forever suddenly vanished. And every day felt like waking up in a battlefield. I tried to wrestle it into making sense. I tried to force joy, force understanding, force healing on my timeline. But the more I wrestled, the more tangled I became. And then one day, sitting in silence, tears running down my face, I felt this whisper inside me say, stop fighting. Start dancing. It didn't mean pretending nothing hurt. It didn't mean pasting a fake smile over real pain. It meant allowing myself to move with what was happening instead of against it. It meant leaning into the rhythm of life, even when the rhythm felt offbeat. It meant letting grief have its time, but not letting it steal every song from my soul. See, life is always shifting. The music changes, sometimes fast, sometimes slow. There are seasons of laughter that make your spirit soar. And there are seasons that drop you to your knees, but if you can stay willing to move with it instead of wrestling against it, you'll find moments of grace even in the hardest chapters. When anger rises in you, don't try to slam the door on it. Let it move through you, but don't let it lead you. When sadness floods your spirit, let the tears fall, but don't let them drown your hope. This is what it means to dance with life. It means you let your emotions exist without letting them become the choreographer of your entire future. It means trusting that even in chaos there's still a rhythm running underneath it all, the rhythm of purpose, of growth, of unexpected beauty waiting to break through. And sometimes the dance is gentle, like swaying to soft music under the stars, and sometimes the dance is wild, stomping your feet in the rain, crying and laughing all at once. But either way, you're still moving, you're still alive, and that in itself is victory. So many of us are waiting for life to become perfect before we allow ourselves to feel joy. We're waiting for the pain to vanish before we let ourselves breathe. But joy is not the absence of pain. It's the presence of God right in the middle of it. It's the willingness to keep dancing even when the floor feels shaky beneath your feet. And I want to tell you today, you're stronger than you think. You're more graceful than you know, and you're capable of dancing through things you once thought would destroy you. So don't wrestle life into submission. Don't waste your precious energy trying to control every note of the song. Let life play its music, move with it, cry when you need to, laugh when you can, rest when the music slows down. And trust that the dance isn't over yet, because even if you can't hear it right now, the melody of hope is still playing underneath the noise. And I promise you, if you keep dancing, even when the song changes, you'll find your way back to the light. Re's an expansion of key point 4, befriend your inner shadows. Into about 750 words, continuing in the style of Sarah Jakes Roberts, warm, honest, faith-filled, compassionate, and conversational, seamlessly fitting into the speech without headings and endings. With a strong final line for impact, one of the hardest things we'll ever do is look at the parts of ourselves we'd rather hide. Because let's be real, we all have shadows. We've all got places in our hearts we keep locked away. Anger we don't talk about. Shame we bury so deep we hope even God can't see it. Memories we wish we could erase. Emotions we pretend we don't feel. And sometimes it's easier to pretend those shadows don't exist. We stay busy, we stay loud, we stay surrounded by noise so we don't have to hear the whispers of our own hurt. But can I tell you something I've learned? What we refuse to face will always end up chasing us. It shows up in how quickly we snap at the people we love. It shows up in how we shrink back from opportunities because we don't feel worthy. It shows up in how we sabotage good things because somewhere deep inside we don't believe we deserve them. And so we live our lives wearing masks, trying to prove we're okay, trying to prove we're perfect, trying to prove we're strong. But the truth is, perfection was never the goal, healing is, and healing doesn't happen by running from your shadows. Healing happens when you turn around and look them in the eye. I used to think that my shadows meant I was broken beyond repair, that the dark places in me disqualified me from being used, from being loved, from being happy. But I've come to understand that my shadows don't make me unworthy, they make me human. And the same is true for you. Those dark feelings you're carrying, they're not evidence that something's wrong with you. They're evidence that you've lived, that you've felt deeply, that you've survived, and sometimes those shadows are just parts of you that are still waiting to be healed. When anger rises up, it might be trying to protect a wound that's still tender. When fear creeps in, it might be reminding you of a time you felt unsafe. When sadness weighs heavy on your chest, it might be mourning something you never got to grieve properly. Instead of pushing those feelings away, what if you got curious about them? What if you sat with your anger and asked it what it's afraid of losing? What if you sat with your sadness and asked it what it's missing? What if you treated those shadows like parts of yourself that need compassion instead of condemnation? Because here's what I've learned. Our shadows are not here to destroy us, they're here to teach us. They teach us where we still need healing. They teach us what boundaries we need to build. They teach us how deeply we're capable of feeling. And they remind us that even in our darkest places, light can still reach us. There was a time in my life when shame was the loudest voice in my head. I felt like if anyone ever saw the real me, the mistakes I'd made, the secrets I carried, they'd turn away. So I kept my shadows locked away, hidden behind a smile and a polished image. But let me tell you, pretending was exhausting. It wasn't until I started letting God shine light into those dark places that I realized my shadows weren't proof that I was unlovable. They were proof that I was still growing, still becoming, still worthy of love. And the beautiful thing is, when you start facing your shadows, they lose their power to control you. When you name your fears, they shrink. When you confess your shame, it starts to dissolve. When you allow yourself to feel your pain, it begins to heal. And suddenly, the shadows that used to scare you become places of transformation, places where your strength is forged, places where compassion grows for yourself and for others. So I want to encourage you, stop running from your shadows. You don't have to be afraid of what's inside you. You don't have to be afraid of your story. You don't have to hide the parts of you that still feel tender or unfinished. Because you are not just the bright, beautiful moments. You are also the places you've struggled and fought and overcome. And all of it, the light and the shadows, makes you who you are. And who you are is still worthy, still loved, still capable of healing. So let the light in. Let it touch every corner of your soul. And know this, even your shadows can become sacred ground.